Now, what if I told you all the world's problems, like famine, plague, pestilence, are caused by forces unseen? Why has your father not returned from the grocery store with milk? Or why are you such a little bit? They're all caused by these little spirits called yokai. No more taking responsibility for your own personal downfalls, when all the worst things about humanity can be explained with one simple word: yokai. Yokai Watch. A monster collecting RPG series that uses cutesy depictions of Japanese folklore creatures that generally aren't so cutesy. Now, just to give some background of how I came to know Yokai Watch, I first learned of it from an issue of Nintendo Power back when Nintendo Power was still a thing. First impressions for me wasn't exactly too great. You know, being a dumb kid, I immediately wrote it off as a bit of a Pokemon clone. Fast forward a couple of years and Yokai Watch eventually gets announced for a US and European release. Around that time I was still kinda iffy on the whole thing, so I tried the demo for the first game when it came out, and I had to say it didn't exactly change my impressions of the game too much, so I decided to bite the bullet and buy the game because I wanted to see what all the hubbub is about it since it's popular in Japan. And I'll be honest with you, that demo did a really shit job at selling the game to people, honestly. Because playing the whole game just felt like a whole different beast comparatively to that demo. And it kinda sucks for anybody that didn't buy Yokai Watch just purely based on whatever impressions they got from the demo. Because this series is honestly a blast to play. And now you may be wondering, why are you talking about Yokai Watch 2 instead of the first game? And that question will be answered as I get to the relevant points while I'm talking about Yokai Watch 2. And why it's okay to skip the first one and just go straight to 2. Now I'm going to attempt to try to give a very summarized Cliff Note version of the story. In case you're worried about spoilers at all, I will leave a timestamp so you can skip to the nitty-gritty like gameplay and stuff. And without further ado, before the story starts, you are given a choice between playing a boy or a girl. For the sake of consistency and canon, we're going to be playing as the boy named Nathan Adams, or Nate for short. He's the current wielder of the Yokai Watch, a device that allows you to, surprise surprise, see yokai. Due to him basically being the bridge between yokai and human relations, he's targeted as a threat by a group of evildoers, first of which we see are Keen, Gin, and Bronzelo, a group of time-manipulating yokai that intend to change the course of history with their powers. They make it to where Nate never got the Yokai Watch in the first place, and he forgets all about yokai. Though as fate would have it doesn't exactly last long, because Nate comes across a strange shop that sells a bunch of random stuff, and one of the random things that he finds is the Yokai Watch. The shopkeeper basically gives him the Yokai Watch for free and tells him to use the money on the capsule machine outside his store. Nate uses the capsule machine and essentially frees his yokai butler named Whisper. After coming back into contact with each other and Nate's other yokai friend Jibanyan, they get all their memories back and wonder what happened. Eventually Nate runs across this giant floating cat named Meganyan, which uses some kind of hypnotic suggestion to make Nate go out to the countryside and visit his grandmother. Nate and his friends eventually find Meganyan in the shack right next to his grandmother's house in Harrisville. After giving him a smacking, Meganyan eventually reverts back to Hovernyan, and before too long, Hovernyan uses a time stone to essentially bring Nate, Whisper, and Jibanyan back to the past, to help Nate's grandfather in the first creation of the Yokai Watch, as well as deal with a new threat of wicked yokai. After helping his grandfather with the creation of the Yokai Watch, Nate obtains the Model 0, which allows him to see wicked yokai and deal with them properly. Nate and his friends also had their first real run-in with the Time Witches Keen and Gin. After dealing with those two, we're finally introduced to the main antagonist of the game, with Dame Dead Time, who has a bit of a thing for saying, "Dun dun dun!" Nate returns to the present with the help of a yokai named Miradox, and after some time that passes, Hovernyan comes back from the past to ask for Nate's help with a war that's brewing between two opposing yokai factions named the Bony Spirits and the Fleshy Souls. Depending on which version of Yokai Watch 2 you bought, you are locked into having to help either the Fleshy Souls or the Bony Spirits, though in Psychic Spectres you are allowed to choose freely between which one you want to help out. After dealing with the conflict, you come to find out the reason why the two factions are warring with each other is because they couldn't agree on what kind of donut they wanted to gift to their leader for their birthday. Custard filled or cream filled, that was the whole reason why they were warring with each other, which is pretty much the whole tone what you would expect from Yokai Watch if you played it all up to this point. Not long after dealing the conflict, it's made aware that wicked yokai have infiltrated the faction's ranks to raise tensions and cause a war among themselves. Dame Dead Time comes in and sicks one of her elite yokai on Nate's group. They retreat to find a way to deal with Dead Time's elite wicked yokai. So they find and train with a powerful yokai named Master Nyata. After dealing with Master Nyata's trials, Nate and his group basically come in and curb stomp the wicked elite yokai. And it's pretty much the final stretch for the main story at this point. A massive dark cloud appears above Old Springdale, which is caused by Dead Time and her minions. You go about dealing with the rest of Dead Time's elite wicked yokai and the smog machines they're using to make the cloud big. Nate and Nathaniel eventually go to confront Dead Time over at a factory she's holding up in. After what Nate assumes to be an unwinnable battle against Dame Dead Time, they realize the reason why Dead Time won't go down is because Keen and Geen keeps rewinding time to revive her. After Hover Nyan gets hurt, Nathaniel realizes that it's okay for your friends to help out, since he thinks he needs to do everything by himself. With the help of his friends, he takes down Keen and Geen, which lets Nate be able to take down Dame Dead Time, now that she has no means to revive. Dead Time, however, gets a bit of a second wind and runs off into the town to steal what energy she can for herself, and she ends up transforming. Though it's a long and arduous battle, Nate and his friends eventually defeat her, and light is restored to the town. Eventually Nate and his friends make their farewells, and they thank Nathaniel for making the Yokai Watch, and the credits roll. And while that's the end of the story, the game is still far from over, as there's still a lot of side content and yokai to befriend. But let's talk about combat for a brief second. Whenever you enter battle, yokai operate independently of you, which means you have no control over what they do beyond whenever they use their ultimates, which are a yokai's most powerful move, and has different effects depending on which yokai are using them. When you get a full team, you can rotate them in and out on a wheel. It helps a lot for switching in yokai that aren't doing too hot and in the front lines. And if you happen to have any yokai that are inspirited, you can switch them to the back and you'll be able to purify them and get rid of the ill effects. You also have an items menu which you can use to give your yokai food to heal them up, or you can use food on the enemy yokai in order to potentially befriend them. When you get the Yokai Watch Model 0, you get the ability to poke inspirited enemy yokai for potentially different effects. Yokai also get the ability to use Sultimate's M, which allows yokai to use more souped up versions of their Sultimate moves at the cost of using adjacent yokai's soul gauges. You can also pin enemies or certain boss weak points just in case you want your yokai to attack specific areas or enemies. As you battle, you also gotta be aware that your yokai are also prone to loafing. If you see them loafing, there's not really anything you can do but switch them out with somebody else until they stop. Yokai excel at 4 different things: physical attacks, magic attacks, defending, and spiriting. The yokai's personality will affect how they perform in battle, and if you got a yokai acting in a certain way you don't really like, you can give them a book that influences their behavior, so that way you don't have to worry about being stuck with a physical attacker just spamming magic moves. Now let's talk about the main appeal of Yokai Watch, the yokai themselves. There's 8 different tribes of yokai in Yokai Watch 2, 9 if you include the wicked yokai. You've got brave, tough, mysterious, slippery, shady, heartful, charming, and eerie. While every tribe has plenty of standout yokai, some more than others, there are just as many clunkers as any other. Though every monster collecting RPG is no stranger to clunkers in their roster. And for some people, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Befriending and collecting yokai can happen in a wide variety of ways. You can find them in trees, under cars, under vending machines. You can find them wandering around in caves or in back alleys. There's even some yokai that are exclusive to the Crankakai, a little crank machine that's up at Mount Wildwood that you can use special coins for in exchange for stuff. Now there is one thing you need to be aware of. Since Yokai Watch 2 has 3 different versions, that means there's going to be exclusive yokai. Like for example, Bony Spirits has Arachnus and Vinoct, and Fleshy Souls has Total Dude and QB, while Psychic Spectres gives you the ability to befriend the wicked yokai. There's no other means of getting these guys without trading or transferring your save data from Bony Spirits or Fleshy Souls to Psychic Spectres. Not to mention other exclusive yokai they had to unlock various different means, like either you get them from a pre-order bonus, or like in the case of Buchinyan, if you have a photo taken from the original Yokai Watch within the past 2 hours that you show to this one random dude at Mount Wildwood. Well, it's a collector's dream for many people. It's pretty much a nightmare to get anybody to actually trade with you for this stuff. Befriending yokai in battle is all a matter of chance as well, which is kind of a pain in the ass. It doesn't matter if you give them their favorite food or you have something that increases the odds of them befriending you. You can still get very unlucky and they just won't show up to be your friend, which can be especially painful if you're trying to get certain yokai for battle boards. These special locations that you can summon certain yokai to, depending if you answer the question right. Now let's talk where Yokai Watch really shines, in the side content. Now I think this is where I should mention the whole why Yokai Watch 2 should be played over 1. 2 has various different side quests where you have the ability to fight different bosses from the first game, and if you go to the original area from the first game where the first final boss is at, you can unlock him with a baffle board. While you can maybe say you want to play the first game just for the story, I can't really recommend it myself. There isn't anything really special about the first game's story, and 2 pretty much has all the content from the first one plus more. Getting back on side content, there's fishing and bug catching with a wide variety of fish and bugs to catch. You have the infinite tunnel, a once a day kind of thing that challenges you to get as far as you can down the tunnel. A wide variety of things can happen in this place. A train can come out of nowhere and take you further down the tunnel if you want, or if you're unlucky it can take you further back where you came from. And depending on how far you make it down the infinite tunnel, you can encounter a wide variety of high-ranking yokai, including Crank-a-kai exclusive yokai if you make it far enough. Just be aware, the further you go, the tougher it gets. Then there's the Gates of Whimsy. They're these random doors that you can find all over the place using your Yokai Watch. Anytime you go into one of them, you have to complete these certain objectives in order to earn Gate Globes. And Gate Globes are used to unlock these doors that are found in a room in the Springdale Museum. There's also going to be times when you're wandering around, well, mostly at night, when you're suddenly stopped and you start seeing a countdown. This is Terror Time. You're teleported to basically some kind of between dimension, where you have to avoid being spotted by these floating eyes, and this giant Oni named Gargros, and eventually his brothers. And speaking of Terror Time, there's a side mode called Yokai Watch Blasters that's included with the game, where you and 3 other people play as yokai that function in 4 different roles: the fighter, the tank, the healer, and the ranger, to take down Onis and earn Oni orbs. Or if you're playing Psychic Specters, you can be able to take on another mode that allows you to fight bosses you fought in the regular game of Yokai Watch, along with some new ones in there too. Making it through Terror Time or Blasters with a lot of Oni orbs allows you to be able to use the Oni Crank-a-kai. The more orbs you have, the better the chances of getting a good prize. There's also a gym that you can unlock that allows you to train your yokai up as well as face bosses you've already fought before. I'm sure there's plenty of other things I could talk about with this game, but some of these things are best experienced for yourself, so no point in spoiling the whole thing. You know, part of me wondered if Yokai Watch would even hold up for me. When I first really got into it, I was in a bit of a stupor when it came to Pokemon. Pokemon releases back then just weren't doing anything for me, and I guess I was just experiencing a lot of burnout from it. Next thing I know, Yokai Watch enters the scene and becomes one of my favorite series on the 3DS. I was worried I probably only liked Yokai Watch just because Pokemon keeps disappointing me. But given now that enough time has passed, I've come to realize that I think Yokai Watch definitely stands on its own 2 feet as a really good series. 2 is full of fun, charm, and content, and I think if you ever are in the ballpark and find a copy, you should give it a shot. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day, and take care.